Hey, John here from FatStacks. Another month. Time for another income report. Today's income report's about October 2019, and it pertains, as usual, if you've been following along, to 7 niche sites I published. Now, I just want to make clear that FatStacks is a site that I publish. It's the name of this channel. It's the name of the blog, podcast, newsletter, etc. That has nothing to do. It's not included. It's a totally separate business entity. It's not included in the income reports, never has been, and, well, for now, never will be. So it really just pertains to 7 niche sites. They vary in niche, they vary in size, they vary in revenue, they're quite diverse. And I use them for illustrative purposes, essentially to show that you can build a half-decent business publishing content site. So let's get to it. Let's jump straight to the numbers, and then I'll talk about some changes I made in October, some developments, and wrap it up with some questions some readers had after I sent this out to the email readers. So the numbers, first off, traffic and revenue, or I should say ad RPM, both went up. That is kind of rare. Usually one or the other will go up, and then one or the other might go down. And sometimes revenue goes up as a result, sometimes it goes down a bit. But this time both went up, and revenue as a result went up quite nicely. But it's not a perfect world, and expenses went up slightly, and I invested heavier than I have been lately the last few months in content. So what was put in my pocket's roughly the same, but that's all good. I'm not complaining. And let's jump into the numbers here. So the big number, the overall revenue was $46,800 US for the 7 niche sites. One site pretty much contributed a lion's share of $37,000. That's my biggest niche site. Because it earns the most, has a fairly high ad RPM, has the most potential. I think I tend to put the most time and resources into it, so it's natural that it's going to grow more than the others, and it's going to earn a lot more than the others. Site 2, just so you know, if you follow along the income reports, I refer to all 7 sites with a number, sites 1 through 7, and really creative, I know. Just so you can follow month to month and sort of see how the numbers progress or regress, and so on. So site 2, 5,600. That site's been flat for a long time. Hasn't really gone down, hasn't gone up, plateaued. But I don't have to do any work on it either. It serves a small business industry. It's not FatStacks, totally separate. And that thing just kind of chugs along on its own with an email autoresponder and a small trickle of traffic, and I more or less leave that thing as is. The third site is $2,700, so that actually had a nice bump. That was good. That site's a mess. I really don't know where I'm going to end up with that site. I don't really have a solid plan. It's kind of a everything in the kitchen sink sort of thing. I use it as a guinea pig site. I test stuff, like when I was testing Azoic, which I'll talk about later. That was one of the sites I put on there. It actually gets quite a bit of traffic, like almost 200,000 visitors. Doesn't earn a whole lot on the RPM basis because it's just kind of a random site. But anyways, had a nice bump in revenue, so that was cool. Fourth site is a site I think has huge potential. If I could just scrape together some time and some more money to invest in it, I think it has. It's really grown traffic-wise. The revenue had a good bump again to $1,200 a month. This is a site I started from scratch, some time ago now. I've just sort of been kicking it along and slowly adding to it. Don't have a lot of time or money to put to it, but it has a clear direction and it has some really, really big growth potential. So I'd love to be able to just extract myself away from some of my other stuff, including FatStacks, which I do put a lot of time into FatStacks because it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to keep doing that as long as it's fun, but it does take away from being able to focus on that site in particular. The other 3 sites, they're all small. I think together they made about $100, so nothing to write home about. Those sites are pretty much on the back burner these days. I put in a bit of an effort earlier this year into growing them, but it's just you got to pick and choose here, and not worth selling. They're worth hanging on to. I think they have potential, but they're going to need a lot of work. So that's the revenue, $46,800 US. My expenses went up a bit to $8,600. I opened up a MailChimp email account, which I'll discuss shortly. That added almost $400 in expenses. I actually bought a whole bunch of products on Amazon for Amazon reviews for some of my niche sites. It's my practice to actually buy or somehow get my hands on products that I review. If I'm going to put a review in the title, I want to have used the product. So for a few product lines, I bought a whole bunch of products. So here's how I go about that. What I do is, obviously it has to be related to the niche, and I'll find a product line. Obviously I don't want to buy 10 things that cost $2,000 a piece. That's just too much. I look for something in the the 50 to the $200 or $300 mark, and I'll buy anywhere from 4 to 10 of them, and I'll test them all, and then I'll write some reviews on them, and maybe profile one is what I think is the best. So I'm starting to do that. They're very time consuming. These, you have to use the product, and then you got to write it and take notes and the whole bit, but it is a bit of work. I am working with a writer on one of them, and she's done a really, really good job. Yeah, a lot of money, a lot of work. Anyway, I spent about $420 on some products, and that's about it. I'm really happy. My hosting costs, even at $1,200 with Kinsta, about 4 or 5 months ago, I think it was up to about $1,700. I ran Short Pixel, which is an image optimizer, and converted all my images on my sites. I use a lot of images on my sites, like tens of thousands. So it's costly to run those sites from a hosting perspective. And hosting was up to about $1,700, $1,800 a month. I put them all in the WebP format, optimize them all with Short Pixel, which is really cool. Wasn't even that expensive. And I've shaved $500 off my monthly hosting. So that was a big win. And so expenses came out at $8,600 for a net income of approximately $38,100. And then content. I spent about $8,000 on content from a variety of services. Now, first off, the lion's share of that went to an in-house writer I've been hired. She's awesome. She's doing a full column. She's cranking out lots of work. Really good writing. It's really elevating. This is for the biggest site, Site 1, and so that costs between $3,000 and $4,000. Didn't write it down here. And then I used Writer Access for a few thousand, and I used Word Agents, which is an old agency I used some time ago. I used them a lot, actually. I used to get tons of content from them. Bounce around a little bit. Anyways, I thought I'd check back with Vin, who owns the place. Super nice guy, and place small order, and unfortunately the rates went up a tad, but content was always good, so I'm waiting on those. I haven't got them back yet. Did a small 5-article order, cost me $1,000. So content, $8,050. Total net income right after the content's about $30,000 even. I personally think content's an investment. It's not really an expense. And the reason I say that is this. I could choose to write all the content myself. Now, obviously I wouldn't publish as much as I do, but if I did that for a month, my revenue wouldn't go down, right? My revenue wouldn't go down. And then I would have no content expense, if that's how you frame it. And so the net income would be a lot higher, and just because it would be higher on account of me actually writing it or not writing anything and just letting my sites go as is, doesn't really make sense. So, I mean, I know we're splitting hairs here. I wrote a whole article on it. It was actually a lot of engagement on the comments here because it's an interesting issue. The issue especially pertains to when you want to sell your site, and is the amount you spend on content in the preceding 12 months, is that a expense, or is that an investment that shouldn't be taken off in terms of net income for valuation, or is it somewhere in between? I think at the end of the day, it's somewhere in between. I don't think it's black or white like that. I think it really is going to be one of those negotiated aspects of a site sale. And after all, a site is worth what somebody's willing to pay, and it's usually a negotiated price, especially at higher numbers. And so, you do split hairs, but it does give you something to, if you're an owner selling, something to say, listen, the net income really is higher because, well, that content is not really an expense, it's an investment. So, very debatable issue in these circles. I think it's an interesting issue, one of those fun accounting issues that probably can go in circles forever. So that was, those are the numbers. Let's talk about the big changes. Actually, a lot was going on. In September, I moved 2 of my mid-sized sites, the sites 3 and 4, the guinea pigs, because they have enough traffic where I can try some stuff and get results, but they don't make so much money that if they completely go down in flames that it's going to be all that costly. So they're great guinea pig sites. So I moved them over to Ezoic. I wanted to see what would happen, and I did a whole Ezoic case study on video here and on the blog. But long story short, one site 4 went up 51%, and site 3 went up about 5 or 6% in revenue, and so those were really good results. And so I thought about it, and ultimately decided to move the rest of my sites, including my biggest site, to Ezoic. My only reluctance with that is I had Progressive Web App on the biggest site. Well, I had it on all the sites actually, and I really like Progressive Web Apps, or known as PWAs. I think they're great for user experience. And I was using one, and I didn't want to leave it because I really liked it, but I really wanted to try Ezoic. Ezoic has been around for a long time. I used to use them on and off for years, and I've had good results with them. I like the concept behind it, where it's they split test ads and ultimately get you the maximum amount of revenue you can earn from a variety of ad networks, and header bidding includes native ads. It's a really cool platform. Now they've really upped their game with 2 new features, which would be premium ads program. You got to earn a certain amount. I think it's around $1,000 or $2,000 a month. But once you get there, you get invited to the premium ads, and you have to pay for it. But that's the only fee you pay to Ezoic. They don't take any other money. They don't do a rev share or anything like that. So you actually know what you're paying for their service, which I really like, and it turns out to not be all that much. And the premium ads do actually earn you more. It'll actually show you what the premium ads earn. So I definitely agreed to join that, and that's been working out really well. It's also contributed to, I guess, it's a higher expense because I included the premium fee as an expense because I know what that is. But at the same time, it boosted my revenue more than that expense. But it did increase the expense line as well. The other big change was a big tagging project. Now, I did a whole separate video on that, so I don't want to get into it too much, but that took up a big chunk of my month. And I tagged 3,500 articles for a site, and I planned it out and was very methodical about it. I just didn't willy-nilly go and just slam a whole bunch of tags to every blog. I went about it and really looked at, like, what are some overarching themes, and applied those tags to those blog posts. And it took many hours to do that, but I'm very happy at the outcome. I've definitely noticed some gaps, some tags where I have some good content opportunities, and it's also made interlinking very easy. And in fact, on that note, I hired a full-time VA toward the end of October, once the tagging was done, to actually go interlink all the articles that share the same tag, to a limit. If there were 20 or more articles with the same tag, then we'll break that up even further. But for the most part, there's a lot of tags with between 5 and 15 articles, and they can all be interlinked. And it makes it very easy to outsource interlinking. You just say, okay, go to all the articles in this tag that have this tag and interlink them all. And that's an easy thing to outsource and assign. And I got really lucky with the hire, I got to tell you. Usually I have to hire 3 or 4 people to find one good person. She was the first person I hired, and she's outstanding. She is really, she's building a ton of links every shift, and they're good. So very happy about that. So that'll be interesting, because I have dropped the ball on interlinking, I'd say, over the years. I mean, I've done it, but it's sort of haphazard, and I wasn't very methodical about it. Certainly wasn't as thorough as I published new content over the years. And so now I'm really catching up, and I'm going back and I'm interlinking everything properly, as best as I can. I'm sure there's always room for improvement, but let's just say I think at the end of the day I'm going to end up with well over probably close to 5,000 more interlinks added throughout the site. There's 3,500 articles, so that's bound to be quite a bit. But I think it's going to help with organic search quite a bit. I think it's going to help with navigation. I think it's going to be a huge win-win. So we'll see how that goes. The final big change was MailChimp. I switched. Site 1 had a big email newsletter of 55,000 subscribers. I wrote a blog post about why I actually deleted that email list, and I did. I deleted it out of Aweber. It had some complaints from the email newsletter. I didn't think there was that many. I thought nothing of it. Aweber gave me some warning. I'm like, I'm done. I'm taking them off. I don't need to risk my Aweber account. I thought Aweber was a little sensitive about this. I talked to him about it, but whatever. I'm not going to risk the account, so I just exported the list, deleted it from Aweber, and didn't really know whether I should start that list up again. I didn't for a couple of months. Anyways, I ultimately decided the best thing to do would just put that list in a whole separate email service, and that's what I did. I put it in a MailChimp. Terrific service, by the way. MailChimp, I think I used them like literally like 9 years ago. I tried them, and I remember there was something about you couldn't use affiliate links in there or something like that. I'm like, well, what's the point of that? So I just didn't bother. I think they offered like free 500 subscribers or something, but quickly switched to Aweber way back then because you could use affiliate links and so forth. Anyways, you can do affiliate links with MailChimp. I mean, the platform is really good. I'm quite happy with it. So I would move all my lists over there, but I do like the idea of having my different niche sites email lists in separate email accounts in case one account goes down. I've never had an account get canceled, by the way. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a big email spammer. I've never actually had any list shut down for quite a few years I've been doing this. It's just I'm saying I got this warning for, and it was only like 10 to 20, 9 to 20 complaints for an email from a 55,000 email list. And I thought, well, that's a pretty small percentage. Obviously, it's not perfect. But anyways, Aweber, I thought, was overly sensitive about that. So why risk it? So I switched over to MailChimp. Haven't had a problem. Not a single complaint, actually, with MailChimp. And I sent quite a few newsletters. So very happy with that. So that was a change. That actually took a lot of work. But I'm happy it's done. So those were the changes. I want to wrap this up with, I sent this income report as an email newsletter to email readers a couple days ago, and then a bunch of readers had some questions, and they were quite good. So I'm not going to go through them all, but I'm going to go through some of the key ones. And the first one was somebody wrote, it's like, how on earth do you make $40,000 a month from display ads? And I agree, it sounds like a lot, right? Like AdSense, there's a lot of talk, like, it's hard just to get to 1,000 a month with AdSense, and ads don't make any money. And I agree. And 5 years ago, I would agreed with you. That's when I sort of got into display ads big time. It really boils down to traffic, and kind of picking a somewhat commercial niche helps. I mean, if you're gonna be in the jokes or the quotes niche, you can get lots of traffic, but there's really not much money there. Advertisers aren't going to bid a lot to go on a joke site, so your ad per 1,000 visitors, your revenue is going to be pretty low. I'm in a somewhat commercial niche, but also with a decent amount of traffic. So just to give you an idea how much traffic I get for that kind of revenue, it's for all 7 sites, it's falls somewhere in between 1 and 2 million visitors. It's close to 1.5. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a fair amount of visitors. So looking at in that light, 46,800 revenue is not enormous. I bet there are many other sites with 1 million visitors that make a lot more money than that. So it's not like I'm, this outlier site that somehow has unbelievable revenue per 1,000 visitors. It's not really true. The other thing I want to say is 1 to 2 million visitors is maybe a mid-sized site. Maybe it's not that big. There are sites out there with ease at 10 million visitors a month, 20, 30. Those are quite large, or definitely top tier, but there are a lot of them, and so it's really not like my site's extraordinary or anything. I've got huge potential to grow, and that's what I love about this business, is there really is no earnings limit. There's no ceiling. You can start a new site and just keep growing it and growing it and growing it to unbelievable levels. Like, there's so many sites out there, we don't know their numbers, and nobody knows about them, but they're huge sites. So you don't have to be like CNN notoriety to think you have a big successful site, or Zillow. Zillow gets a lot of traffic. There's tons of sites out there that are easily getting 5, 10, 15 million website visitors, and you've never heard of them. So yeah, that's how you get $40,000 a month in ad revenue, is just a fair amount of traffic and half decent ad RPM. I've done a lot of ad testing. Ezoic has helped. That gave me a nice bump. I've done a lot of ad testing over the years, and so it does make a difference. You add $5 RPM to any site, it's going to have a significant impact on your overall revenue. The other question has about progressive web app. It was hard to leave that. I didn't want to leave that with Mobimi, but I did because I really wanted to try Ezoic. Ezoic does have a PWA, but I'm not using it. I may give it a shot. I'll use one of the guinea pig sites or maybe both and put it on PWA and see how it works. But for now, I'm not using any PWA. Back to old school. Obviously, I have a mobile responsive theme for all my sites, so they do look pretty good. They actually look quite good on mobile. The other thing I want to say about Ezoic, a really good feature, is they have this site speed app. They call them apps. You just load it on, and then basically it has a bunch of settings, pretty self-explanatory. And it actually works. It actually speeds up my sites, which is pretty cool because my sites are heavy with images, and I do put quite a bit of ads on there. So they're pretty heavy pages to load, long pages, lots of images, and so they can take a while. And I'm not saying I got the fastest site now, not anywhere close, but the Ezoic site speed app has helped, so I'm quite happy with that. And I'm going to stick with that for a while. Ezoic revenue this month is looking really good. I'm only not even a week in. What's interesting, okay, historically my biggest site, and my sites in general, will have really nice growth from January to about May. And then I hit a plateau in May, sometimes even a bit of a dip. This year I had a bit of a dip after May, through the summer, kind of coasted, plateaued through summer. And then usually in the fall, the traffic goes down. I'm not sure why, because it's, I do have quite a bit of summer content, but it's pretty balanced out throughout the year. But it goes down, and then December, of course, plummets. December's atrocious, even though with high ad RPMs, the overall revenue goes down. But what's interesting this year is traffic actually went up in October, not tons, but a little bit, which is unusual. And right now in November, knock wood, traffic is even higher. So this is an unusual fall, a definitely welcome change. And well, ad RPMs are excellent. October, they're pretty good. November ad RPMs are amazing. Like once you get toward Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like I think those are the best ad RPMs of the year. Those days are amazing. I would love those to be around all year, but that's a nice boost. So November is really good RPM wise. December's, I think most sites, especially the last 2 weeks of December, it's a bloodbath unless you have like a Christmas website. So that's October, and it's a little bit of looking forward. It's also changes made, and big changes, and a general update of what's going on. Thanks for watching.